Everyone thought my mother was a hero. The truth is, she built her reputation on my suffering, turning me into the evidence of her lies. I survived her world of manipulation, but not without scars that still bleed.
Welcome to Reddit Toxic Family Telltales channel. New episode every day.
My mother locked me in a soundproof closet, poisoned me into silence, and then turned around and blamed it all on mental health. I exposed her, got her convicted, and finally moved on with my life. And now, 5 years later, she's reached out to me. Growing up, my mom had misophonia. If you don't know, it's a condition where everyday sounds, chewing, breathing, snoring, can feel unbearable, like nails scraping inside your skull. But in her case, those sounds didn't just annoy her, they pushed her into rage. My very first memory is from when I was 6. I had fallen down, scraped my knee, and naturally I cried. Her solution: she stuffed a filthy dish towel into my mouth to shut me up. And if I ever snored too loudly at night, she'd storm into my room and blast an air horn right by my bed until I woke up in shock. She called it negative reinforcement. I was supposed to learn not to do it again. Imagine being a little kid and being told you should thank your mom for blasting a horn in your face while you slept. And then came my 9th birthday. She handed me a strange little gift, something she'd made herself. A quiet points report card. Each food in the kitchen had a sticky note with a number on it. Bread was 2 points, meat was 10, snacks even more. I could buy food with points I earned by being silent. Shower without making noise? 3 points. Get through a night without snoring? 8 points. The harder it was, the more I'd earn. At 9 years old, I didn't see the cruelty in it. I just wanted to make my mom proud. I hugged her, my big brown eyes glowing, and stayed silent because I thought that's what good kids did. The next morning, I followed my routine. I pulled the curtains slowly, got dressed in the school bathroom so no zippers or drawers squeaked at home, and kept my face pinched in concentration to avoid noise. That evening, she handed me my new report card with 30 points, scrawled across it in big bubble letters and hearts. She even let me choose dinner. I picked steak, my favorite. For a brief second, it felt normal, like a real family. But of course, nothing was normal. She overcooked the steak until it was rubber. Every chew felt like grinding rocks together. I tried chewing as slowly and carefully as possible so she wouldn't hear the dreaded mouth noises. After 5 minutes of fighting one piece, I couldn't do it anymore. I spit it quietly into a tissue. "What the hell are you doing?" she shrieked. "A cow died for you today, and you spit it out? Put it back in your mouth." My hands shook as I opened the tissue and shoved the soggy meat back in. My tongue smacked against the roof of my mouth and the sound was too loud. She froze, then slammed her fists on the table. "You disgraceful brat!" she screamed. She ripped the report card from my hands and burned it over the stove. "You think I can't make you suffer the same way you make me suffer? Think again." Then she grabbed my little hands and shoved them close to the flame. "The pain you feel right now? That's only 20% of what I feel when you make noise." I didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, it did, but because I knew crying meant punishment. So I stayed silent. That night, my dinner was nothing but air. Breakfast? Same. Lunch and dinner the next day? Nothing. She'd knocked my points into the negative zone. 3 days later, my body finally gave out. I fainted in the middle of school. When I came to, the first words out of my mouth were, "I'm sorry I fell so loud. Please don't starve me again." The guidance counselor, Mrs. Henderson, rushed me into her office. She gave me a banana, a granola bar, and a chocolate bar. I inhaled them so fast I almost choked. When I looked up, she was pale and trembling. She picked up the phone with shaking hands and called Child Protective Services. Hearing her say the words, "suspected child abuse and neglect," was like nails in my chest. She asked me gently what had been happening. At first, I couldn't speak. I was too scared my words would be too loud. But finally, I whispered the truth. My mom had misophonia, and to cope with it, she'd created the quiet point system. I told her about the steak, about being forced to put chewed up food back in my mouth, about how she'd held my hands to the stove. Mrs. Henderson's face drained of color. She wrote everything down, her pen scratching furiously. Then the principal walked in with 2 people. Ms. Rodriguez from CPS and her colleague, Mr. James. They asked me to tell the story again, then took me to the nurse. Nurse Patricia weighed me, 72 pounds, far below what I should have been. She examined me and documented everything. The visible ribs, the dark circles, the way I flinched at my own breath. When she asked when I'd last eaten, I whispered, 3 days ago, steak. But I couldn't chew it quiet enough. They decided I needed to be taken to the hospital. Panic ripped through me. No, my mom will know. She'll know I made noise, that I told. My breathing grew louder and louder until I was gasping into a paper bag while the nurse whispered, "It's okay to make noise. You're safe now." But then, my mother arrived. I heard her voice in the office hallway, syrupy sweet, the one she reserved for strangers. "This is all a misunderstanding," she said smoothly. "My daughter has such an imagination. You know how children can be." Miss Rodriguez stepped in firmly. "We'll need to visit your home and verify everything." "Of course," my mom replied, feigning calm. "I just went grocery shopping. The fridge is fully stocked." And in that moment, my stomach dropped. She had prepared for this. Somehow she'd known it was coming. And she was ready. Mr. James stayed with me while Ms. Rodriguez and another CPS worker followed my mother home. Principal Morrison lingered too, offering me a cup of water. I stared at it but didn't touch it. Swallowing made sound, and sound meant danger. I leaned closer to Mr. James and whispered, "The therapist she mentioned, I've never been to therapy." His pen scratched across his clipboard. "We'll verify everything she tells us," he promised. Time dragged. I must have dozed off in the chair, worn out from the stress and the first full meal I'd had in days. When I woke up, Ms. Rodriguez had returned. Her face schooled into something unreadable. "We visited your home," she said carefully. "Your mother showed us a fully stocked kitchen, a clean bedroom. Everything appeared normal." My chest clenched. The point system, the chart, it was on the fridge, the sticky notes. "We didn't see anything like that. Your mother said she uses a standard behavior chart for chores." Of course she had. I knew instantly. She'd cleared it all away. "We'll keep investigating," Ms. Rodriguez said gently. "But for tonight, since there's no immediate evidence of physical abuse or neglect, you'll need to return home. We'll do follow-up visits." The room tilted. They were sending me back. Principal Morrison jumped in, his voice firm. "She fainted from starvation." The nurse documented her weight, severely under what's healthy. Ms. Rodriguez sighed. "Her mother showed us medical records indicating an eating disorder. She said she's been trying to help, but her daughter refuses food." "That's not true." My voice cracked, small and weak from years of practice in whispering. No one even reacted. Ms. Rodriguez crouched down to my eye level. "I believe something is wrong, but legally, without proof, I can't remove you. Here's my card. Call me if anything happens. We'll be back tomorrow." The ride home was deathly quiet, the kind of silence that feels like a predator circling. My mother didn't say a word until we pulled into the driveway. Then, in her calmest, deadliest voice, she said, "You've made things very difficult, but don't worry. I have a solution." Inside, the kitchen sparkled normal, stocked, no trace of sticky notes. But in my room, two new objects waited. A pair of noise-canceling headphones and a white noise machine. "Your therapist recommended these," she said smoothly, though I knew there was no therapist. "Doctor's orders. You'll wear them whenever you're home, except at meals." She slipped the headphones over my ears and flicked on the white noise. A rushing sound filled my skull, like an ocean storm crashing endlessly. I couldn't hear her footsteps, couldn't hear if she was near or far, just static swallowing everything. I ripped them off. "I can't." Her scream froze me in place. She waved a piece of paper, fake letterhead, fake doctor's note. "If you don't comply, it's medical noncompliance. That won't look good for your little CPS friends." The headphones went back on. The world dissolved. I saw her mouth moving but heard nothing. She pointed to my desk. "Homework." I obeyed. When I tried to take them off for the bathroom, she appeared instantly, tapping the doctor's note. I learned to mime the request silently until she nodded permission. Dinner was my only reprieve. She'd lift the headphones off my ears, feed me real food, then put them right back on. During one meal, she leaned close. "CPS will be back tomorrow. You'll tell them the headphones are helping, that you're eating, that everything is fine." I nodded. What else could I do? That night, I slept with the static roaring in my head, unsure if she was standing over me in the dark. The next day at school felt like stepping into sunlight after a storm. I could hear again, though every sound stabbed at me after so much manufactured silence. Mrs. Henderson checked in. "How did yesterday go?" I wanted to spill everything, the headphones, the fake note, the new system of control. But I knew my mother already had her story ready. "She has the house full of food now," I said instead. Mrs. Henderson frowned. "And you're eating?" "Yes. But she gave me headphones." My voice trembled. "Headphones?" she repeated, her concern deepening. Before I could explain, the classroom door swung open. My mother stood there, smiling, a manila folder in hand. "Sorry to interrupt. I just need to drop off some medical documentation." My blood ran cold. Mrs. Henderson took the papers politely, and my mother asked to explain my daughter's treatment plan. Her eyes cut to me like daggers even as her voice dripped honey. "Her therapist says it's vital her teachers understand her sensory processing disorder." I watched through the glass as she spun her lies in the hallway, passing over forged notes and fabricated progress reports. When Mrs. Henderson returned, her face was conflicted. Concern, but also doubt. "She showed me detailed treatment notes from Dr. Nichols," she said. "There is no Dr. Nichols," I whispered, desperate. But the papers looked real. Letterhead, signatures, months of supposed records. Every denial I made just made me look like the problem child she claimed I was. The trap was perfect. That afternoon, I spotted my mother still lingering in the office, chatting easily with staff, laughing at her phone. She was weaving herself into the school, poisoning the well before I could even speak. At lunch, I noticed a new substitute teacher. Young, observant eyes that lingered a little too long. Later, I'd learn her name, Miss CB. Days blurred under the static. The headphones dug grooves into my skull. My weight kept dropping even though the fridge stayed stocked. At school, I drifted through like a ghost. One day, in Miss CB's class, I started tapping my pencil. Short taps, long taps, Morse code, a cry for help hidden in noise. Her hand froze mid-equation. Slowly, her eyes found mine. After class, she called me up. On a slip of paper, she wrote, "Are you okay?" My hands shook. Instead of writing, I tapped 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. SOS. Her face went pale. She scribbled fast. "Who is hurting you?" I tapped out the word, Her jaw clenched. She wrote, "I'll help. Be careful. Act normal." Asterisk asterisk. For the first time in months, hope flickered. But that night, my mother studied me at dinner. "Interesting day at school?" she asked casually. I shook my head. "Shame Miss CB won't be around much longer," she added. "I heard she might be transferred soon." My fork froze. How did she know? She always knew. The next day, Miss CB was gone. A week passed before I saw her again. She wouldn't meet my eyes. But under my paint palette in art class, I found a note. "Your mother came to my apartment. She knows where I live. I'm sorry." Asterisk asterisk. I crushed the paper in my hand. Even this, my secret code, my one chance, my mother had poisoned. Weeks passed. I grew weaker. The white noise consumed me. And then, the final insult, family therapy. My mother had found a new doctor, Dr. Klaus. In our first session, I tried. "She makes me wear headphones all the time at home. It's not treatment. She just doesn't want to hear me exist." My mother sniffled into a tissue. "You see? The aggression, the accusations. I've tried everything." Dr. Klaus nodded gravely. "Children with oppositional defiant disorder often reject interventions." "I don't have that," I begged. "Denial is also typical," he noted calmly. Then my mother pulled out her phone. "I've been recording some of her behavior for documentation." She pressed play. It was my voice but distorted. Audio clips of me stomping, slamming doors, screaming, all fabricated. "That's not," I stammered. "Classic," Dr. Klaus said. "Aggression, denial, rejection of treatment. Mrs. Chun, I believe more intensive intervention may be necessary." And just like that, her trap snapped shut. The sessions turned into weekly torture chambers dressed up as therapy. My mother would arrive with her arsenal, edited recordings, forged documents, tearful stories of how hard she tried to raise such a difficult child. And every single time, Dr. Klaus nodded along like she was reading him scripture. He prescribed heavier meds, stricter controls, and validated every poisonous word that spilled from her mouth. I stopped fighting. Why bother? Every truth I whispered was twisted into proof of my condition. Every protest became evidence of my so-called manipulation. At school, I was a ghost. Kids whispered about the weird girl with headphones. Teachers avoided me. My mother's narrative, that I was unstable, manipulative, dangerous, spread like wildfire. In desperation, I started leaving little notes. Slipped under desks, wedged behind books, hidden in bathroom stalls. Just a few words. Asterisk, help me. My mom is lying. Please believe me. Asterisk. For a week, nothing happened. Then, one afternoon, I saw my mother in the library volunteering again. She moved methodically, wiping surfaces, checking shelves. And then I saw it. A flash of white paper as she slipped something into her pocket. That night, during therapy, she handed Dr. Klaus a folder. "I found these at school. She's been planting them everywhere, trying to get attention." Klaus looked grave, like he'd solved the mystery of the century. "This escalation is very concerning. Have you considered inpatient treatment?" "No." The word ripped out of me, hoarse and desperate. "Please, I'll stop. I'll be good. I'll be quiet." My mother's eyes glistened with triumph. See how she bargains? Classic manipulation. Klaus scribbled notes. Let's increase her medication. And perhaps a stricter behavioral plan at home. The new pills smothered me. My brain wrapped in cotton, thoughts sticky and slow. Paired with the white noise headphones, it was like living inside a padded bubble where nothing was real. And then cameras. Installed in my room for my safety. Now she watched me constantly. Sleeping, changing, doing homework. Even in the bathroom, the headphones stayed on, removed only for bare essentials. She'd been preparing this narrative for years. One session, she brought journals dating back to when I was 4. Pages upon pages of lies. Asterisk. Deliberately screamed to trigger my misophonia. Asterisk asterisk slammed doors. Asterisk asterisk manipulative laughter. Asterisk none of it true, but the detail was meticulous. "You see the pattern," she told Klaus, her voice breaking perfectly on cue. "I've tried so hard, but she seems determined to hurt me." I tried to argue, but the meds slurred my words. My protests sounded confused, broken, which only proved her case. School should have been an escape, but she poisoned that too. 3 days a week, she was there. Volunteering, smiling, praised by teachers as a dedicated mom. Other parents admired her strength. And me? Just the troubled daughter everyone pitied or avoided. Even Miss CB, the substitute who once dared to believe me, looked haunted now. She kept her distance, eyes heavy with guilt and fear. Whatever my mother had done to silence her, it had worked. One morning, I woke up dizzy, clutching my bed frame to stop the spinning. The meds had been upped again, and I suspected she was slipping extra into my food. At breakfast, I could barely lift my spoon. My mother's eyes sparkled with false worry. You seem tired, sweetheart. Maybe you should stay home today. No, I croaked. School was my only break from the endless static. If you insist, she said lightly, jotting something down in her journal. At school, I stumbled through the day. During PE, I collapsed on the track. My body just quit. When I woke, Nurse Patricia was crouched over me, blood pressure cuff around my arm. Her face was grim. Your blood pressure is dangerously low. Your pulse is irregular. What medications are you taking? I fumbled for names, but my head was fog. Pills? For my condition. Minutes later, my mother swept into the office, perfectly timed. She handed Patricia a typed list of medications, crisp and professional. These doses seem very high for a child, Patricia said carefully. Dr. Klaus is a specialist. My mother countered smoothly. He knows what he's doing. Here's his card if you'd like to confirm. Patricia did call. I listened as her voice softened over the phone, as Klaus no doubt spun his story of my severe behavioral disorder and the necessity of aggressive treatment. When she hung up, Patricia looked defeated. He says the doses are appropriate, but I'm documenting this. My mother smiled razor sharp. Of course, documentation is so important. In the car, at a red light, she finally spoke. Her voice was soft, deadly. You're getting sloppy, making scenes, drawing attention. That needs to stop. The medicine makes me sick, I whispered. The medicine keeps you manageable, she corrected. Would you prefer the alternative? I didn't ask. I didn't need to. I'd already found the soundproof closet in the basement. Padded walls, lock on the outside. That night, she showed me her newest journal entry. Asterisk daughter exhibited substance-seeking behavior today. Attempted to manipulate school nurse into changing medication. Became agitated when confronted. Asterisk. Every cry for help became ammunition. Every symptom of her abuse became proof of my illness. The next morning, I could barely stand. She half-dragged me to the car. At school, I slumped at my desk, the world blurred and tilting. Mrs. Henderson noticed immediately. She knelt beside me. Are you okay? I wanted to scream it all, the meds, the closet, the cameras, the lies. But my tongue was heavy. My thoughts scrambled. Medicine, I whispered. She glanced toward the door, where I knew my mother was hovering somewhere nearby. I'm going to the principal, she said softly. This isn't right. But by lunch, I saw her in the principal's office with my mother. Through the glass, I watched my mom pull out her phone, show something on the screen. Henderson's face drained of color. She nodded, then walked out without meeting my eyes. My mother smiled at me through the window. That afternoon, Henderson avoided me entirely. When I tried to approach her desk, she shuffled papers. You should get to your next class, she said flatly. Another ally gone. Another adult silenced. Whatever my mother had shown her, edited videos, fake threats, it had worked. The days blurred darker. More meds. More static. More fog. Until the fire alarm went off. The blaring siren shattered through my drugged haze. My body panicked. I tried to stand, to follow the evacuation plan. But my legs buckled. I hit the floor hard. This time, I didn't get back up. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed. Machines beeped softly, steady. No static. No headphones. I broke down crying. A doctor leaned over me, her face grave. Can you tell me what medications you're taking? I opened my mouth. But before I could speak, my mother swept into the room. Oh, thank goodness, she cried. She hasn't been taking her meds properly, hiding them, spitting them out. Dr. Klaus warned me this could happen. The doctor frowned. The blood tests show extremely high levels of sedatives, far above any therapeutic dose. She must have taken extra. My mother insisted quickly. She's been hoarding them. I found a stash yesterday. The doctor's expression hardened. I need to speak with the patient alone. My mother's grip on my hand tightened like a vice. Of course, but you should know. She's been diagnosed with severe oppositional defiant disorder. Manipulation is part of her condition. Dr. Klaus can provide full documentation. After my mother left the hospital room, the new doctor, Dr. Sarah, pulled her chair closer. Her voice was calm, almost whisper-soft. I'm Dr. Sarah. I want to help you. Can you tell me what's really happening? I wanted to trust her. Her eyes looked kind, her concern felt real. But I'd trusted before, and every time it had ended the same way. My mom. She gives me more medicine than the bottles say. I whispered. Dr. Sarah scribbled notes. Has anyone else noticed this? I let out a bitter laugh that barely made a sound. Everyone notices. No one does anything. She has proof. Recordings, videos, journals going back years. What kind of recordings? She pressed gently. I tried to explain the edited audio, the forged evidence. But even as the words left my mouth, I could see the doubt creeping into her eyes. It sounded insane, even to me. A mother building years of lies, carefully crafted like a fortress, just to keep her child trapped. Who would ever believe that? Dr. Sarah ordered more tests, reviewed my mom's files, even spoke with Dr. Klaus over the phone. Each step chipped away at her initial concern. By the time I was discharged 2 days later, the narrative was written in stone. I was a manipulative child who had hoarded meds and overdosed for attention. My mother? She was praised as vigilant, selfless, heroic. The ride home was silent, except for the hiss of white noise in my ears. My mother had brought the headphones to the hospital, telling the staff they were part of my treatment. When we got home, she didn't take me to my room. She led me straight down into the basement. The soundproof closet was smaller than I remembered. 4 feet by 4 feet, padded on every surface. No light switch inside, just darkness. Dr. Klaus agrees, she said calmly. You need more intensive intervention. This is your safe space, to work through your behaviors without hurting yourself or others. Please, I begged. But she was already guiding me in. 2 hours to start. We'll build up from there. The padding blocks all sound so you can scream all you want. Therapeutic, really? The door shut. The lock clicked. Darkness swallowed me. No sound. No light. Just me and the static still ringing in my head. I tried counting seconds, but the meds made time slippery. My throat tore from screaming I couldn't even hear. When she finally opened the door, I collapsed into the blinding light. She caught me gently, voice dripping with false concern. How do you feel? Did it help? I couldn't answer. My voice was gone. She made a note in her journal. We'll try again tomorrow. Consistency is key. And so it became routine. School where I drifted like a ghost. Home. Headphones on. Dinner laced with medication. Then hours locked in the padded closet. I tried leaving notes again at school, but the meds had destroyed my handwriting. Shaky letters, nearly unreadable. One teacher found one and, of course, brought it straight to my mother. She's regressing. My mother told them with practiced sadness. The writing therapy Dr. Klaus recommended isn't working. We'll adjust. Miss CB showed up less and less. When I did see her, she looked haunted, thin, hollow-eyed. Whatever my mother had done to her, it had broken her spirit. And then, one day, clarity hit me like a flash between dozes. My mother had been preparing for this all along. Every note, every recording, every forged document. She'd been building this prison brick by brick for years, and I was trapped inside it. The school held a meeting about my worsening condition. I sat slumped, barely able to focus, while adults debated my future like I wasn't in the room. My mother laid out her evidence, journals, recordings, the hoarded meds, the hospital incident. We're considering residential treatment, she said, tears glistening. Dr. Klaus knows an excellent facility. Principal Morrison frowned. This seems like quite an escalation. Perhaps a second opinion. My mother's mask cracked for half a second before the tears returned. Of course, if you think that's best. But I worry. She's getting worse every day. Mrs. Henderson tried quietly. She seems heavily medicated. Perhaps that's... Are you a doctor? My mother snapped. Because Dr. Klaus is. Dr. Sarah is. Her pediatrician is. I'm doing everything possible for my daughter. These accusations are hurtful. The meeting ended with apologies to her. Promises of support. Another win for her, another crushing defeat for me. That night, the closet time doubled. For hours in the dark, padded box. By the time she dragged me out, I was barely conscious. You're almost ready? She whispered, her grip tight on my arm. Almost ready for the next phase. I didn't ask what she meant. I already knew. But then, hope. During library time at school, I was slumped over a book when someone slid into the chair across from me. Miss CB. She looked hollowed out, matching my exhaustion. But her eyes still burned with something fierce. She slid a book toward me. Inside the cover, one line scrawled in pencil. Asterisk, she did this to another child. I found proof. Asterisk. My heart stumbled in my chest. She scribbled more. Asterisk, the guidance counselor is building a case. Real evidence. Hold on. Asterisk. And then she was gone. That night, my mother was restless, pacing the kitchen, checking her phone. There's been some staff turnover at your school, she said. Her tone was too casual. Nothing you need to worry about. I watched her eyes calculating, adjusting her plans. Something had shifted, and she knew it. The meds at dinner tasted different, stronger, heavier. I fought to stay awake, terrified that if I gave in, I might never wake up. Through the haze, I heard her on the phone with Klaus. Yes, I think it's time. The residential facility. How soon can they take her? The last thing I remembered before the dark pulled me under was her standing in the doorway, silhouette sharp against the hall light. Soon, sweetheart, she said softly. Very soon, this will all be over. The next thing I knew, she was shaking me awake. My limbs felt like wet sand, useless. She shoved clothes into my arms, slipped the headphones onto my head, static roaring. Get up. We're leaving. She dragged me to the car, tossed me into the back seat. Suitcases were in the trunk. Through the haze, I realized we were really going. The facility, or somewhere worse. Hours passed in a blur. Gas stations, rest stops. She never let me out, just shoved chalky crackers and water into my hands. Dawn was breaking when we stopped in front of a massive building surrounded by high walls. It looked more like a prison than a hospital. A woman in scrubs greeted us. Mrs. Chun, we've been expecting you. Dr. Klaus called ahead. Papers were signed. Money changed hands. The woman took my arm. We'll take good care of her. My mother knelt in front of me, her face painted with concern. Be good. Do what they say. This is for your own good. Then she turned and walked away without looking back. The nurse led me inside. The doors locked behind us with a heavy click. She pulled off my headphones. The sudden silence was dizzying. Welcome to Peaceful Meadows, she said. I'm Nurse Ratchet. Let's get you settled. Sterile halls. The stench of disinfectant. Kids with hollow eyes shuffling by. My room. A white box with a bolted bed. A blinking camera in the corner. Medication at 8, noon, 4, and 8. Meals in the cafeteria. Quiet hours enforced. Break the rules, you'll spend time in the reflection room. She locked the door behind her. I collapsed onto the thin mattress, the weight of it all pressing down. My mother had finally done it. She'd made me disappear. But then I remembered Miss CB's note. Asterisk proof. Real evidence. Hold on. Asterisk. And for the first time in months I thought, maybe, just maybe, someone out there still believed me. Days blurred into one another in that place. The pills they gave us weren't the same ones my mother slipped me. But the result was no different. Numbness. I shuffled from meal to group therapy, where no one was allowed to actually speak. Then back to my room to stare at blank white walls during reflection time. I tried to count days, to keep track. But without windows or clocks the world flattened into an endless gray. Some of the other kids had stopped even trying. They walked around like they'd forgotten the outside world existed. Then one day something cracked in the routine. Lunch had just been served when Nurse Ratchet was called away. Staff clustered by the doors, whispering. Through the cafeteria windows, I saw flashing lights. Police cars, lined up in the parking lot. My heart nearly burst. Asterisk, they'd found me. Someone finally believed me. Asterisk. But then, the squad cars pulled away. No one came inside. Staff returned to their posts, sharper than ever. Their eyes cutting through us like blades. My spark of hope dimmed to ash. That night, I heard voices in the hallway. Ratchet and another staff member, arguing in low tones. They're asking questions about the Chin girl. Someone filed a missing person report. Her mother's got all the paperwork. Commitment signed by a licensed psychiatrist. But if they come back with a warrant, they won't. Klaus said everything's airtight. The hope that had flared in me died all over again. My mother's web of lies still held. Days passed in the drugged haze. Then, during morning meds, something different. A nurse I'd never seen before handed me the paper cup. Younger. Her eyes actually saw me. Her hand brushed mine too long. I felt a tiny fold of paper pressed into my palm. I pretended to swallow the pills, slipped the note into my sleeve. Back in my room, I unfolded it with shaking hands. Asterisk, we know where you are. Hold on. Soon. Asterisk. The handwriting, I knew it. Miss CB. I ate the note immediately. Couldn't risk hiding it anywhere. For the first time in weeks, my chest burned with something other than fear. Over the next few days I watched. That nurse, the new one, kept coming back at med times. Never checked if I swallowed. Sometimes shifted her body to block the camera. Her shifts always seemed to fall when staff presence was thinner. 3 days later, chaos erupted. Sirens, shouts, doors slamming. I heard pounding on the front entrance, voices demanding to be let in. My door burst open. The new nurse stood there, breathless. We have to go. Now. She yanked me into the hallway. It was pandemonium. Staff running, shredders chewing up paper, kids being dragged back to their rooms. We pushed through a side exit I'd never seen open before. On the loading dock, a van idled. Behind the wheel, Mrs. Henderson. Her face set. Fierce. Get in. I stumbled inside as she slammed the gas. Out the back window, I saw police pouring into the building, dragging staff out in cuffs, guiding dazed kids into ambulances. Miss CB found records, Henderson explained between clenched teeth. Your mom's done this before. A boy named Marcus. 5 years ago. Everyone thought he went to relatives. Turns out he was locked away there for 3 years. My whole body shook. My mom. Arrested this morning. Police found the soundproof closet. The forged journals. Everything. Klaus too. Bribes, false commitments, he's finished. The drive back felt unreal. Real sunlight stung my eyes. Real air filled my lungs. For the first time in forever, I wasn't drowning in static. At the hospital, they documented everything: malnutrition, overmedication, trauma. Ms. Rodriguez was there, tears on her cheeks. The system failed you, she said. But we'll make it right. Miss CB came to, exhausted but alive. She explained how she'd kept digging after my mother threatened her. How she uncovered patterns of complaints. Kids who'd vanished. Your Morse code saved your life, she told me. That's what made me dig deeper. The weeks that followed were a blur of interviews, hearings, medical exams. My mother faced charges. False imprisonment, child endangerment, conspiracy. Klaus even more. The so-called Peaceful Meadows was shut down. Children were placed in real homes, real treatment centers. In court, the mask finally cracked. Prosecutors unveiled everything. Her years of fabricated evidence. Her manipulation of every adult who might have saved me. The jury looked stunned. She was convicted. 25 years in prison. Klaus got 30. And me? I was placed with my aunt. My mother's sister. Warm, loud. Nothing like her. She encouraged me to make noise, to slam doors, to laugh too loud, to just exist. Recovery wasn't instant. I still flinched at sudden sounds, still found myself tiptoeing, whispering. But with real therapy, with patience, I learned. I joined choir. I filled my life with music, humming in the halls, tapping my pencil during tests. Mrs. Henderson visited often, bringing cookies. Miss CB taught me Morse properly, turning it from survival into a skill. Rodriguez kept in touch, making sure I never slipped through cracks again. The day of my mother's sentencing, I testified. For the first time, I spoke loud, steady, unwavering. I told the court about the point system, the starvation, the closet. I looked her in the eye as I said every word. She tried to interrupt, to spin one last lie. The judge cut her off. Enough. The evidence is overwhelming. Maximum sentence. As they led her away, she turned back. This time, I didn't flinch. That night, my aunt made steak. Medium rare, tender, perfect. We laughed around the table, the house echoing with sound. Real sound. I started at a new school. Made friends who didn't understand why tapping my pencil or humming made me so happy. The nightmares faded. The whispers quieted. On the anniversary of my rescue, I got a letter from Marcus, the boy before me. He thanked me for being brave enough to break the cycle. He was in college now, studying social work. I wrote back about my new life. Choir, debate, drama club, all the things that let me use my voice. I told him I wanted to be a teacher, someone who would notice when kids went too quiet. My aunt framed the court papers not as spite, but as proof that justice was real, that lies don't always win. And the Morse code? Kept it. Now it was fun. Secret jokes with friends. Messages tapped during boring assemblies. A language of survival transformed into something light. Later, the investigation confirmed what deep down I'd already known. My mother never had misophonia. That was just her excuse, her cover. The real sickness was her obsession with control. But she failed, because I was still here, still speaking, still loud. On my 18th birthday, my friends and family sang happy birthday at the top of their lungs. Off-key, too loud, chaotic and beautiful. I closed my eyes and let the sound wash over me. I was free.
Thanks for watching. Today's train wreck is over, but tomorrow's ride is already on track. Subscribe so you don't miss it.